topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hi, I'm Shelby Wagner, host of Learning to Dance in the Rain. I welcome you to my show today. It's shown every Tuesday at noon. We're doing a pre-recording today with Pastor Carl Litchfield, who is the pastor at the Burr Oak Methodist Church in Michigan and also in the Menden Church in Michigan. And he's my pastor currently. Carl, let's bring you on out here and get started.
Oh, hi. Hey, hi, Shelby. Oh, what a surprise. Here we are.
Would you like to say anything about your past? We've talked about it before, but this is a new broadcast in case we have new people. I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
How many years have you been in the service of the Lord?
Well, my first time in the pulpit was January 1st. It's a Sunday, January 1st, 1983.
Okay.
And so I've been involved in pastoral ministry now for 41 years. And I've served a variety of churches, most of them country churches, most of them small churches. God blessed in many ways along the way. I learned a lot of lessons along the way, what to do and what not to do. But I'm so glad I'm at this end of my ministry because most of the mistakes that are possibly made, I've already made them. I'm not bound to make them again. And I've got a great deal of confidence in working in tandem with God, God's Holy Spirit, and working with God's people. So I'm really, really pleased that we're at this place in time and ministry. And I'm really, honestly, Shelby, I'm really grateful that we have these times once a month to be able to get together and talk. I love your book. I was just going through the contents and I was paying attention to the sections that you have put in there. And I thought it was pretty cool. The rain. You're always saying learning to dance in the rain. And what is the rain itself? And the next section is learning to dance. And then the next section is dancing. I thought it was just really a beautiful progression. What's after that? Okay, be careful. Okay. Well, I had some questions for you.
Okay, I was feeling today would be
dancing before, unless there was something you wanted to bring up first of all, or anything like that before.
No, I think we're ready to get started if you like.
Well, I love the section on dancing in the 13th chapter says dating is different today. And I kind of wondered what really came to my mind is I'm sure, Shelby, you've had dozens and dozens of conversations with people who are having life experiences such as you have had. And there are some success stories out there of those who have gone into the dating world and they have done things right. They have kept themselves safe. They have protected themselves, but they've also discovered a whole new social whirl, if you will, a whole new circle of friends that they've discovered. Friends that they're just friends kind of thing, or that perhaps that someone that they've discovered and begun to get to know has turned out not to be just friends, but a successful romantic relationship. So I was wondering if there were some success stories, Shelby, that you might share with me and with everyone who's listening in on the podcast, someone who's done it right and had found some real happiness out there.
Yes. One thing I wanted to say before we start is that I think the biggest mistake that people make that have not been successful is thinking it's going to happen right away.
Oh.
And it's not necessarily going to happen to right away. I met one young woman. She says, I've only talked to one man, and we made it. We've been married 10 years.
Wow.
She had an abusive marriage relationship prior to going online. But right away she met Mr. Right, and they were together at least 10 years. I've kind of lost track of her, but yes, I met them. And one day here in Sturgis, I had a display out on the sidewalk in front of one of the stores. All of the stores were having open houses or whatever. And Mercantile let me have set up my books out in front. And I had this huge sign that said learning to dance in the rain, and that it was about internet dating and so on. And so I went over to the couple and said, do you want to know more information about that? They said, no, we met online. And I said, oh, well, I'd like to know your story then. So she lived in Sturgis or in the area, and he lived in northern Indiana. Okay. And they had dated, back and forth for a couple of years, I believe. And then they had just gotten married about 2 months before. Wow. So I says, well, what took you so long? To ask her.
Tell me.
He said, I don't know. He says, I just woke up one morning and said today was the day.
Oh, for goodness sake.
And she said yes. And so they had dated for several years, and for 2 years at least, I believe. And then they had been married about 6 months when I met them.
Well,
and so they were very happy, and I shared a little bit about my experiences. And of course, I had just written my book. I hadn't. I guess I had a couple years under my belt there.
Okay.
But there were two, and then I also at the dance met my friend Judy, and she had been on the dating site for quite a long time, maybe 5-6 years.
Oh my!
And so we met probably about 6 years ago, and about 2 years ago she got married, and with somebody she met online. And
she met online. A successful connection was made.
Right.
Wow.
And
wow.
So,
excuse me.
That that's and in chapter 15 about online dating.
Okay.
I had put a chart there that I had found on a statistic website that where do people meet other people, and it said 58% of the singles would meet their dates through friends. Well, I moved back from Tennessee up to Michigan, and I didn't have very many friends around here. I had my daughter's family, and so I kind of put the word out to them. But I said, do you know any single men? Well, no, don't know any single men.
Well, your daughter being married, she probably had not been out fishing about.
And there was one in my choir that at church, at the Methodist Church in Brunson, but he wasn't interested in. He still loved his wife, and he wasn't going to go any other direction. And so I had to look at some other things. And so the chart said 37% meet dates in bars or coffee shops or other public places. And I hadn't had any success at any of those areas. And of course, there's always the workplace. And since you're retired, who are you going to meet there? It said 49 million people in the United States have tried online dating. That's a lot of people, 49 million. And this was like 5 years ago. So I'm sure it's more now, especially with the COVID and people, being trapped at home.
Right.
A lot of them went on dating sites that had not been on before. But finally, we get down to the last one, and it said, or the next to last one, 46% of the people, of the users of internet dating sites met their current partner online.
Huh.
I don't know how many total that was, but that was, 50, almost 50%.
That's quite a large percentage, though. Yeah.
Right. And so I thought it was well worth trying out. And that's what one person, I had borrowed his chart on the 5 types of men on online dating sites. And one of the things he said, why do you go on or try internet dating? And he says, because it works. And with 50%, and I'd have to say, well, I met, I met three fellows before I met Rick, and that I liked, but for one reason or another, and they liked me too. But they were. One had already been married 4 or 5 times. He didn't want to try it again, and the other had 4 daughters and 13 grandchildren, I think. And so I said, Shelby, I couldn't make you number 1 priority in my life, and that was right, So
that's a telling statement right there. He was being honest with you, but it
hurt at the time.
Where you're at.
I really did like him. That's what one of my friends said when I said, well, I really like this guy and whatever. And when I told him what he said, well, Shelby, he did you a favor. I said, what do you mean he did me a favor? And he said, well, he told you right up front that you'll never be number 1 with him. So why worry about it? Go on, move on.
And, still tough to hear when you had hopes. Yeah.
Well, this guy, with all of the grandchildren and everything, I mean, he's still, I just heard from him last week. How are you doing? He said, are you married yet? I said, no, but I'm in a relationship. He said, I still can't figure out what I did wrong. And I thought, well, how about 13 of them?
You was at the tail end of a 13-person line.
Right. But so getting married, I don't know. Rick hasn't asked me.
Well.
But we both are so busy because he's remodeling his home, his house. And so we've chosen not to see each other through the week so we can, and I have my writing and my business. And so
right.
We go dancing on Friday night and sometimes Saturday night, and church on Sunday, and see each other, spend as much time as we can on the weekend. And through the week, we try to get our work done.
I see.
Yeah. So
you're sharing priorities. You have common priorities.
Right.
Good.
And it's good. I mean, he's able to do his woodworking, which he loves. And I'm able to do my writing, and it works that way also. And I find it very nice not to have to worry anymore about chatting with people online.
Starting a new relationship.
Right.
Doing all the basics and protecting yourself while you become a little bit more open about yourself. That you're walking a tightrope there, I would think.
Oh yeah.
Reveal too much, and you may have given something given something, some personal information away you later on regret for doing.
Oh yes.
Sharing not enough. Your friend might just get discouraged, thinking, well, she's she's not really opening up to me. And so I guess this isn't going to go anywhere. So there's a balance line there.
Right, right. And I have to say, I did something in the very beginning that I would advise other people not to do. And
Oh.
the dating sites say stay on their platform and talking with the other people until you feel comfortable, And so if someone asks you to, well, let's go to WhatsApp, or let's give me your telephone number and we'll talk and chat, or that. And if they say that within I would say the first week, that's a pretty good tip off that they're not somebody you need to talk to.
It sounds like they're trying to manipulate you and isolate you.
Yeah, they want to get you off onto another private chat option. And I don't know what all they want to do, but I did not observe that. It said that right before I signed up. It said stay online. If somebody asks you to go to another platform to chat, just say no. And I thought I might write a book about the experience. So I wanted to know what happened. I'm curiosity killed the cat. Well, curiosity about killed me, I think.
Oh my! It did turn into a very bad experience.
I think that's why I have had so many scammers that people that turned out to be scammers. Now, Rick doesn't think he's ever talked to anybody, and was on a dating site for quite a while throughout the years, off and on. And he says, I don't know why you get all these calls or messages. And I said, well, once you give them the money that they want, your name goes on a suckers list, and it's kind of like a telemarketing thing.
It gets passed on.
They keep recycling, and somebody else tries again later on. So I would say whenever somebody suggests right away within the first week that let's go on to WhatsApp, is especially one that I would say watch out for. Or give me your own telephone number. Don't do it right away. Wait,
what is it? I've never been on WhatsApp. So what is it about WhatsApp that makes it
WhatsApp is
a little more dangerous?
You can have conversations back and forth, and I guess they use it in business a lot because I see the businesses, and then it's one of those supposedly very private. Nobody can see what you're talking about except you and the two people involved. It's supposed to be a very secure private site, but it's also, because of that, become very well known for scammers to use it. And
they can isolate you there. If there's family that want to monitor your conversations and make sure you're making safe decisions, they wouldn't have any access to what kinds of interactions you're having there.
Yeah, my son about hit the ceiling when he found out I was even on WhatsApp. He said, Mom, that's a scammer ship. I said, well, no, it's not. It's a business one. And he says, well, the scammers use it a lot. So he thought I should have it. There's a lot of them that are out there. Google Meet, for example, is another one that some of them used. And I've forgotten now some of the other ones. But the chat on the dating sites is a safe site. It's a safe place to talk, and that's where you need to stay until you meet. We feel comfortable enough to meet someone. I also found that meeting somebody within the first couple weeks is what was suggested to me was a good idea, because if they won't meet you within the first 2 weeks, then move on, because you're probably not going to meet them after all. But with me, I didn't live in a big city, and it took longer than 2 weeks. In fact, the one guy with 13 kids took 4 months before we actually met,
Uh-huh.
But there were other signs that I knew that he was a real person. I mean, he didn't have any of the red flags at all that I
Okay.
had learned
Okay.
to watch out for. Plus, I could find him on the Better Business Bureau, or I don't know if
Uh-huh.
it was that, but that way. But
Yeah. In your chapter 14, it speaks about our adult children object. Tell me
oh,
about some of the um,
there,
impediments to a blossoming relationship that you might run into because of your children. I'm sure they love you and are doing their best to watch over you, care for you, but they can also prove to be an impediment, I suppose. What's the chapter all about? Our adult children object, chapter 14.
well, I'm going to go back to chapter in the first part.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's talk. Which is that one? The fourth chapter, maybe. It's chapter 5.
Chapter 5, okay.
And in this case, before I even signed up I just happened to look through Match.com and a couple of others, because that's where my son met his wife, was on Match.com.
Wow.
So I
Okay.
was looking at that, and I thought, oh, my son, he met his wife on that. That seemed to work out pretty good. So let's. But before I subscribed, I thought, well, I'm going to ask my daughter what she thought, because I was living with her at the time. And oh my gosh, I opened up a kettle of worms when I suggested that maybe it was time for me to start thinking about dating. Now, this was 6 months after her father had died. And why on earth, I said, would you want to meet somebody? You're not finished grieving yet. She didn't think. And I said, well, yeah, I'm lonely. Well, how can you be lonely here? I mean, people are in and out of this house all the time. And yeah, okay, but those people are here to see you and your husband. They're not here to see me.
That's
And
true. Mhm.
and everybody there, everybody was working. They're a lot younger than me. They're all working, and
Busy
I,
lives.
I right, and so I was alone all day long, actually. And then uh, um, so going to the shopping mall, I would walk the malls by myself. I would go to a movie by myself. Once I was the only person in the movie theater watching the movie.
And I have done that before also in a different kind of setting, but different place and time. But it is kind of an odd experience to be the only one watching the movie in a whole empty theater.
Thank goodness they weren't as big as they used to be.
Well, that's
If you
true.
go to a
That's true. That's true.
but yeah. So when I said, well, she says, "Ma," and then when I said, well, how about? I thought I could meet. Well, she said, you meet some. She mentioned a couple of ladies at church. I said, well, I've already talked to them, and one of them has heart conditions. She doesn't want to get far away from her home, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but nobody seems to want to go with me. And so I said, how am I supposed to meet somebody if I'm staying home all the time? Or even if I'm out by myself, I don't feel safe just talking to anybody.
Lock up somebody on the
Right,
corner, strike up a conversation.
right.
I don't
And
think so.
of course, as far as Robin, I guess was young enough that all of she had heard about the scams on dating sites, and oh, Mom, you'll get scammed. And I said, oh no, I wouldn't do that. And darn it, she was right. I did. Um, so after having this big discussion with her, and well, I don't know. Anyway, I went upstairs and I called my son, and he did the same thing. Here he had met his wife on the internet. And yeah, Mom, those guys are not interested in being friends if they're on the internet, you know. And I said, well, I think I can handle myself after all. But they were both against it. And they said at the time they didn't think I had grieved enough, that, 6 months wasn't long enough, apparently. I don't know. I don't think with either one of them, in their case, it was worrying about an inheritance or anything like that. But I have met other people where it was very obvious that their kids were against them finding a new partner because of maybe losing inheritance. And also, I know one of them, she was used to grandpa coming over and spending time with the grandchildren and babysitting free. And she knew that if he got to dating, that he wouldn't have, as much free time she could take advantage of his free services.
Cut back for her. If she didn't
Right. And so there was a big article in the AAA magazine about that, not the AAA, but the magazines, what is it, senior?
AARP.
Yeah, one of those, about your children, grown children, objecting to you having a new relationship.
Right.
And there's several things going on, because number one, they don't want you to be hurt again.
Right.
They don't want to. Right. Maybe they don't want to share you. Maybe they don't want to share your time. Maybe they don't want to share the money or think it's going to go.
The inheritance. My mother had said when she was widowed that there would never be another man for her in her life. She ended up in a retirement community, and after she'd been there a couple of years, she became part of a welcoming group. And part of what that welcoming group did was, when there was somebody new coming in to the retirement community, they would get assigned as a big brother or big sister and show them where everything is in the building, where the chapel is, and how to get these services, the sewing room, laundry, and that. And they were often seated together in the dining room. And so they helped them get started in their first weeks in the community. And Mom ended up assigned as a big sister to a elderly gentleman, and they kind of hit it off. They had good friendship and that sort of thing, and it turned into somebody that they spent more time together. And when they're walking down the hall, they would hold hands and that sort of thing. And he made it very clear that this was not for marriage. He told Mom this, and when myself and my brothers visited, he sat down with us and said, "This cannot be for marriage, but we really do enjoy one another's company." But his daughters got involved and kind of said in no uncertain terms, "No, you're never going to marry my dad," talking to my mother. And that kind of upset Mom. That was, it was not her intention, but because there was some wealth involved, everybody got very careful about that. But I know of a situation where one of the parishes I was serving in, there was a man and a woman. They were both widowed, and they met, and they knew each other, and they developed a dating relationship, and they ended up getting married. But the woman had a substantial properties. She had a farm, she had some wealth, and that sort of thing. The man didn't have much at all in his retirement. So when they got married, what really should have happened was sort of a prenuptial agreement that the will that she had for her children would not be changed. Her children would still inherit the farm and that sort of thing. Those steps were not taken. And unfortunately, the new husband liked to joke with his stepchildren, "I'm out spending your inheritance." And they took that as an insult. And they really did not like this guy at all. So the woman, unfortunately, after a number of years, she died of cancer, and the children took him to court and tried to kick him off the property, and that sort of thing. In the end, the court ruled against both the children and the man, and the farm had to be sold, and
wow.
the inheritance distributed with the children. The man ended up with nothing, but he ended up leaving the area. I contacted, they'd been parishioners of mine. I contacted him later, and he said, well, the kids, they just poisoned the area against it. They spoke so badly about me. He says, I couldn't go anywhere without being treated awful. He says, I had to lead the whole community. So there's without being careful about those steps, to be reassuring to the children on both sides of the uniting family that your inheritance is not going to change. If you are secure in what you're about to receive, we're not going to be tearing this apart or diminishing what you have an expectation for. But these kinds of things need to be thought out. And that one instance that I went through as an observer, it was just awful to watch that thing happen.
Well, that happens.
What they wanted, because in the end, the court ordered that the whole farm be sold, and they all lost because they all had attorneys. They had to pay attorneys' fees, all that stuff, and they ended up with smaller amounts of cash than they might have anyway. Excuse me. So
Sure.
there's a disaster story right there because people weren't careful.
That tells everybody they need to set their parameters before they get married.
Right. I think in this case, a prenuptial agreement makes sense.
Yeah, right. And because I've heard that more, and it's not just meeting somebody online either. One friend of mine down in Howe, his dad married one of the women that he'd known whatever for a long time, and she ended up taking all of the family inheritance, and the three boys got nothing. And she didn't need it. He already said she was richer than his dad was, so I guess she was just plain greedy. I don't know.
That sure sounds like it.
Right.
Sounds like a disaster story.
Stories about women like me, for example. I bought my house because I was going to go into Thurston Woods, but there was nothing available when I finally decided I needed to. Well, I sold my house in Tennessee, and so I bought this house, and I really like it. I like my, I'm only a mile from Thurston Woods, but so if say Rick and I should get married, I've heard of a lot of women who've sold their house and then they are stuck with that kind of situation with their stepchildren, and they want to kick them out of the house that they were living in because it was their father's and now it belongs to them. And I said, well, that's not fair.
No.
So should a couple like me, I'm thinking, well, maybe I better hang on to my house if we get to the point where I would move in with Rick. I would keep my house. Maybe we would live both places, weekends on the lake, whatever. I don't know. There are a lot of issues to be decided before you decide to be married.
Yeah, and a lot of these are legal questions. You're really going to have counsel of an attorney to make sure that for your own safety, your own well-being, knowing that you do have, if things should fall apart, or if there's an untimely death or something like that, that there is a plan B that's ready, a fallback position, if you will,
Right.
but also some reassurances for the family that this new relationship, this new marriage, perhaps, is not going to destroy what they had any previous expectation for. That
Right.
they also will be protected. I think that's wise all the way around.
The article from the Art magazine was that you sit down with your family, like with my son and daughter, and explain, this is what the will says. This is not going to change, whatever, so that they know exactly what to expect.
Right.
But the problem comes in when one gets greedy. I even had a friend in Tennessee. They're two sisters, and their dad had passed away long. Let's see, how did it go? Their dad passed away, and the mother was still alive. And the other daughter, not my friend, but her sister, went to the mother and wanted her part of the inheritance right now.
Uh-oh.
And the mother said, "What makes you think you have a part of an inheritance right now? I mean, obviously everything goes to me because I'm still alive."
Right.
Well, how does someone like the sister think that just because her dad is gone, that her mother is not entitled to?
Well, yeah. I think
mean,
that if for a married couple to have a will where it's clearly stated in the case of one partner predeceasing the other, the only thing that happens is all the property is completely owned by the surviving spouse. There's no family division. There is no
right.
inheritance down to the next generation or anything like that. But it
Do you
needs
have to have that in writing?
I think it needs to be clearly stated in the will that you get if your spouse dies, that you continue to hold everything. It's all your own property.
Right.
You make me think of the story that what we call the prodigal son in the Bible, and the son basically says, "I want my share of the inheritance now." And the amazing thing is the father gave it to him, but if say the farmer is a landowner and a farmer, that means he has to sell his farm and he has to give half the proceeds. His income, his livelihood, his farm, his property is now diminished by half because his son basically said to him, "As far as I'm concerned, Dad, you're dead to me. You are already dead, and I want my inheritance now." It's a horrible thing that this young man is doing to his father. But his father says, "If that's what you want, this is what you get." And so it's all around, when you stop to think about the implications of it, it's an amazing thing that how horrible it is what the youngest brother has done.
And it never has ceased to amaze me that when he finally had enough nerve to go back to his father, and his father welcomed him with open arms.
Yeah, he still loved him enough to welcome him home after the horrible things that his son had said when he left.
But what about that other son?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting. The elder son, the eldest brother.
It doesn't say though that he got into.
I'm a little prejudiced because I'm the baby brother in our family, so I have always thought of the youngest son in a rather fond way, and elder brothers always seem to be the enemy. But the eldest brother has all the reason why to be angry. I mean, it's legitimate anger. Here you gave half your property away, and now you're welcoming him back after he squandered his life and living. And I can understand why he'd be angry. And I've never rebelled. I have always been ready to serve. I've always been here for you, and now you're welcoming him back. So it is a powerful, powerful story. The interaction that's happening there. And in the end, you don't know. Father's on the porch. He's waiting for the youngest son to return, and he sees the youngest son return, and he's in horrible condition. He's covered in pig filth and travel dust, and the father races off the porch to welcome this wandering soul back home, and they give him a signet ring which reinstates him as a member of the family. You are still my son. You are my son. And throw a party. And now the end of the story, the father's on the porch, and the eldest brother is standing on the ground outside of the house, and the father is pleading with the eldest son, "Please come in and join the party." He's still standing on the porch waiting for his other son to come home. The distance now is not from the horizon to the house. The distance is 10 feet from the porch steps to the house, and still the eldest son is refusing to come home. It's a kind of a role reversal. The youngest son apparently hated his father, and that's why he wanted his inheritance left. And apparently, at the end of the story, now the eldest brother hates his father because he's welcomed his younger brother back. This son of yours, he didn't say my brother has come back. He said, this son of yours has come back after wasting his living. So the father is still in the same dilemma, trying to talk one of his sons to come home. It's an amazing role reversal.
Well, I guess God is telling us, though, that he will welcome us back.
No matter what.
Right.
Shelby, I believe you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right.
And the particulars, we don't know whether he left any money to that younger son again, do we?
No, we don't, but it really doesn't matter. He's been welcomed into the house. He's going to be supported for the rest of his years and for the rest of his life, at least as while his father has any say about it. He's welcomed in. He's received with a feast. He's received a new robe, and the signet ring is restored on his hand. And as far as his father's concerned, the youngest son is restored as a member of the family. Right. After all the wrong things he said and did, he's still restored as a member of the family.
But there are a lot of families that don't get restored like that.
No, yeah. Because when we're talking about humanity, we're talking about people. We're talking about broken hearts. We're talking about people that have been hurt so badly that it's hard for them to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can do that. Not every human being is capable. Most of us are not. I'd say most of us are not capable of it, to welcome home the one who's been so wasteful and so destructive and so mean-spirited.
Mm-hmm.
As a human being, in many cases, it's impossible. But as the scripture says, with God, all things are possible. To be able to forgive, we oftentimes what we need is for God to step in and help us to forgive. Help us to forgive.
Right. And it's important for us to sit down and have these hard talks with our kids.
That's true. Yeah. Yes.
And maybe they won't agree. I mean, how many times have both my kids say, well, you never listen to us anyway, take our advice anyway. And said, well, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to know what it is that you're thinking. But I may not agree with everything.
Yeah, this is still my decision. This is still my life. These are my choices.
But like in the article that on the ARP is that the older person has the right to decide if they want a new partner and decide to be happy again. And I think most kids, like my kids, said, we just want you to be happy, Mom.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
And that's fine. It took a while for my kids to, my daughter to think I had gotten through the grieving process. And actually, the couple of men that I have taken home and introduced, they liked them. So I think that she thinks choices are fine.
Right. You're making some good decisions, and she's confident in your capabilities to choose. Yeah.
Right.
I was surprised when I first came into Jerry's family. I'm the newest outlaw in the family.
Oh,
The first thing that happened, the first crisis that happened in the family was Jerry's grandmother. Her mother's mother was dying of a tumor that was just growing like wildfire, and it really overtook her abdomen and it took her life. So I hadn't been in the family hardly at all. And when we were having the funeral for Grandma, and Grandpa came to my wife, Jerry, and I, we were standing together, and he says, I want you to know, he says, I feel like I'm a young enough man, and I don't believe that I can live by myself on my own without having the help of a woman. He says, I want you to know that if God leads me in this direction, that it's quite likely I want to meet someone and I want to be able to marry again. And my wife answered, and I thought it was a beautiful answer, Grandpa, whatever is good for you, whatever makes you happy, that is what I want for you. And then what astonished me is that Grandpa, after Grandpa talked with Jerry, Grandpa went and talked to Jerry's mom. And what astonished me was my mother-in-law's answer to her father was exactly the same words.
Oh, yeah?
Dad, whatever it takes. If that makes you happy, then I'm happy for you. Then I'm happy for you. It's a beautiful moment in a sad time.
Mm-hmm. Very good for the children to understand.
Yeah, right.
God said it's not right for a man to be alone.
That's right. That's what God said. Yeah.
For a woman to be alone either.
Right. Looking for a helper. Mm-hmm.
And as we get to our age now, I forget things, and Rick will remember, but he forgets things. And I will remember, so we need each other too.
Right. We remind each other. Mm-hmm.
Remind each other what has to happen. So that's nice. Yeah. Supplementing, is that called supplementing each other or
complementing, completing? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we're about out of time. Is there anything you would like to say?
Amazing. When we get together, Shelby, I'm a little afraid. I'm thinking, how are we going to fill an hour? And then all of a sudden you're saying, well, I think it's time. I thought, how did that happen? I enjoy our conversations. I enjoy being with you and having this
conversation. Enjoy it very much too. I wasn't sure exactly what we were going to talk about today.
Well, we never really know for sure.
It came out. I think it came out fine, and I'm going to talk to the audience and thank you for being here with us today. And I invite you back next time for a conversation that might be of interest to you and might even help you through a rainy time in your life, like dancing did for me. Thanks a lot, and see you next time. Bye now.